Okay, so here we have a picture of health, and you'd say unhealth. But in a state of health, things are lined up. Again, with my chiropractic training, we recognize the alignment of the spine, the muscle tone around the spine. These are nerves, not arms, nerves that come out of the spine. And if everything is set up, the body can be symmetrical, where legs are even in length. And then we also recognize with my heart math training that if our heart's beating in its correct rhythm or a healthy rhythm, it actually extends an electromagnetic field from us. And when that field is intact and extending from us, we have a feeling of say, buffered from the world influences. We have a sense of feeling good physically, mentally, and emotionally, and allowing our spirit to express into the world. Now, when things come along, like trauma, and it could be a physical trauma or an emotional trauma, or toxins that come along, and we live in a pretty toxic world. We're breathing them, we're probably drinking them, being exposed through our diet too. And then our thoughts, probably our biggest point here is how we think and feel about things relates to either keeping these parameters or this is what happens. And I call this the raisin effect, where if any one of these are affecting our body, usually it's a combination of all three. Our field begins to collapse. What happens, nerves can get irritated, contract muscles, make one leg shorter than the other, and cause you can say our heart rhythms to be aberrant, not in a healthy type way. So we want to see where we are in this respect. So we want to assess, to see where we are assessment-wise, and there's testing using blood, hair, urine, other factors too, to see where we're at. And then seeing where we're at, what we need to do in terms of keeping our body in balance, what lifestyle choices we need to choose, and then what natural support would be helpful in the interim. And then we want to see, say we're starting at this point where we're not feeling well, or we could be healthier based on the assessment. And then we want to see how we commit to moving in a healthy direction. And it takes commitment, usually at least a level 8 to 10, to make the commitment to make the changes that are necessary. So when, say when a health program is implemented, do we have the sustaining power to rely, again, back on our reason for being? The leverage of our healthy choices does relate to the leverage of having that reason for being ingrained in our hearts and minds, established there. So then let's look at this a little bit further in terms of making lifestyle choices. So we're at the center of things, and a big factor, again, relates to our posture. And every morning I do an exercise, an Egoscue exercise, where I just stand against the wall for 4 minutes, helping me to remember what a rightful upright posture is. But as we do that and we erect our posture, it allows all the organs internally to be strong in relationship to gravity so they can function as best as possible. Then breathing. Breathing has a lot to do with our health. I'm going to surround this a little bit more, but just give an overview first. Eating and drinking, what we're eating and drinking, our fitness, our rest activity balance. So let's look at these a little bit more in terms of posture. Posture does relate to how we think and feel about things. And we know if we do upright ourselves, it's going to help give us more of a confidence in our thoughts and our feelings. Breathing, again, allows us to have a sense of poise, addressing stress there. So a big part of heart math and addressing stress is how we breathe. And again, an exercise I've been looking to impart with all is that when you breathe in slow and out slower, it activates what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to bring a sense of calm. Eating and drinking, real food. Basically, again, the majority of our diet should be real food and adequate clean hydration, filtered water. And then something in the blue zones, they recognize folks who live to be a good age with a quality type life, they stop eating when they're 80% full. So that's a little art, and to learn how to do that. I know I have some work to do in that respect, but to recognize and to actually eat a little bit slower so you recognize when you're starting to get to that point. And then fitness. What we know is aerobic training, resistance training, stretching are the fundamental things of keeping fit body-wise, but really it's just movement. If we just move, walk, if we dance, if we garden, if we do something different besides just sitting in a chair and watching TV, along with rest activity balance. Now, this is where I think the crux of our health really depends on being in a flow state. And that's a term that's been coined by a person by the name of Csikszentmihalyi Csikszentmihalyi. He's a Hungarian who actually taught at Chicago University. He was a positive psychologist. Sorry for butchering his name, but he coined the word flow state, and he related to, should I get this out of the way? Physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now, there's ways he coined it and described it, but I've taken it a little bit further and did some of my own thinking. And this is a little bit of my ingenuity. So you think about a flow state relating to the activity we have and the rest we engage with. And as our activity increases and our rest increases, we want to look to see how we can stay in a flow state of a balance where there's a sense of ease in the rhythms of our day. However, if we start to get out of that flow state, say our activity ramps up and we're starting to ramp up physically, but also we can feel ourselves getting a little bit overheated mentally and emotionally, we'll feel a little anxious. I know we've all had that experience, I'm sure, there. And then we think about, though, if we're not actually engaged enough with our lives, there's a sense of boredom or there's a sense of something missing. So if we look at it even further, when we're overamping ourselves, it's almost like the future matters most. We're out of that flow state of actually overamping ourselves. And in terms of boredom, we might be the past matters most. We care about remembering way back when things thought to be better, where the past matters most. But when we're in the flow state, now is what matters most. Okay. There's a lot more to consider in that. We'll consider more, but that's opening the topic. Now, moving on to natural support, we want to look at supportive supplements. So I recognize in the way the world is, our food supply is depleted in ways. So we want to look to see if getting minerals into our body, and minerals provide conductive elements, we can say, for the electrical forces of the universe to have contact points to move through our system, our meridian system, through our nervous system. So we want to make sure we have minerals. Antioxidants, and with the aging process, when things get old, they oxidize. If you look at an old car, the paint is oxidizing. So for our own bodies, we want to have things that prevent that oxidation process. Digestive support. Now, a big thing with vitamin D, folks may not know, but vitamin D actually helps the intestinal cells stay in the rightful integrity in order for, you can say, our digestive intestinal barrier to prevent things from getting into our bloodstream that shouldn't be getting in there, which if they do, which can cause what's called autoimmune reactions. And then essential fatty acids, omegas, those are anti-inflammatory. They help brain function. And then drainage remedies. So folks may have these supplements in mind, but folks may miss the point of drainage. And that can come in the form of homeopathics, botanicals, and enzymes. And drainage relates to helping actually the toxins that we may be exposed to assist them to drain out of our system, to allow for our liver, our kidneys, our lymphatic system to be draining those elements. And then looking at, I found microcurrent to be very helpful. And microcurrent matches the body's own electrical nature, and it can be great for pain assistance, brain assistance also, and when you're feeling sick. So that's natural support. Now, if we look at assessments to help determine what we need, we look at blood and we look at inflammatory markers. Now, a big part, and Carol shared an article with me in a magazine all about inflammation, that inflammation is basically a lot to do with the disease process, which can relate to our aging faster. And there's elements or testing we want to keep an eye on called CRP and sed rate. Those are inflammatory markers. There are other inflammatory markers, but most doctors take these. They should take them to see where you are in that respect. Then looking at cancer markers, again, 1 out of 2 people are eventually diagnosed with cancer. So you want to see where you are in that respect, mark where you are, and if they're see where get a baseline and make sure they're trending in the right direction, not up. And then cancer markers and tissue breakdown markers, something called CK, which is creatine kinase, and LDH and estrogen. Now, those are markers to see if your body is beginning to break down, and estrogen levels, if they elevate, that can set the stage for cancer. And then looking at Cleveland Heart Panel, inflammation markers. Now, cancer, heart disease, actually heart conditions are the #1 cause of mortality, and then cancer is second. So there's a Cleveland Heart Panel inflammation markers that goes beyond just checking your cholesterol levels. These markers check to see if you're close to having actually, if you're building up atherosclerosis, but also this MPO factor relates to the fact if you're close to having the increased potential for having a stroke or a heart attack. So I look to make sure we cover that base with individuals. And then other factors for your blood work, you're looking at vitamin D levels, your ferritin levels. A lot of doctors don't take ferritin, and if your ferritin levels rise, and they can rise for women who are in postmenopausal, and if they do rise, that can set the stage also for increased aging. Your hemoglobin A1C relates to your blood sugar levels, and then thyroid antibodies can give an idea if you're developing an autoimmune condition. And then looking at heavy metal testing with urine to see where you are in that respect. Microbiome gut testing is a test I've come across called the FX Biome test, which is full genome sequencing testing, which really can give a good idea of what's happening with your gut and your microbiome, which has a lot to do with your body's immunity. And then lifestyle genetic testing. I've been kind of hesitant to get in genetic testing, but I found this company, the DNA company, that actually protects your data. And they basically they're not looking to see what disease you're going to develop in the future. They're actually looking to see how you're wired in terms of what best exercise you would be primed for, like what diets, how your sleep factors affect you, even mood factors. So it gives you an idea how you're actually genetically wired in terms of tendencies that you may have thought-wise, and then things that can optimize, say, exercise for yourself. So these are assessments I feel are very helpful for individuals. Okay, let's end the recording, and we'll look to talk a little bit more and discuss if there's any questions in that respect.